Since my video on Petosaurus is kind of blowing up right now, it brought up this question again. How can we be sure this dinosaur didn't have any feathers? Which is a great question, because you should never be afraid to ask questions. So let me show you why, and I love this because I get to explain this with a graph. So as dinosaurs evolved, they split into two main groups around 230 million years ago. These groups are the Saurochia and the Ornithichia. Saurochia translates to lizard hip, which is in reference to the pelvic bone, so the bone in between their hind legs, which looks a lot like that of a lizard. And Ornithichia translates to bird hip because they superficially look like those of birds. And this is where the confusing part comes in, because you would think that birds evolved from the bird-hipped dinosaurs, but they don't. They evolved from the lizard-hipped dinosaurs. More specifically, a group called the Theropods, so everything from T-Rex to Velociraptor. And within this group we have the first evidence of flight feathers, which also went through an evolution on their own. They started off as these so-called proto-feathers, which are essentially just fluff, but then over time evolved into what we can now recognize as real feathers. Now where does this leave our little guy's Petosaurus? Because Buddy over here belongs to the Ornithopods, the bird-hipped clade, which makes him an early ancestor of Triceratops or Edmontosaurus. And still we can see that it obviously had bristles, which are essentially a type of protofeathers. This is where paleontologists aren't really sure either. Some claim that these bristles evolved completely separately from the protofeathers that would later evolve in the theropods, while some claim that protofeathers in some capacity might have been around a lot longer than we think. As with most things relating to dinosaurs, we just have to wait for more evidence to surface and for more papers to be written for scientific consensus to be reached, which is not looking too good right now in the political climate of the Western world. Yippee. I personally think these evolved independently and did not really stick around much longer, as there's no real evidence of something like Triceratops really having feathers or proto-feathers in any capacity. Although thinking of it, it would be really funny to have a fully feathered or porcupine Triceratops. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, the reason we know this dinosaur specifically did not have feathers is because we have this beautifully preserved specimen and we could very clearly see feathers if there were any.